Hello and welcome to the News at 7, where we get to the heart of the day's stories and communities across Scotland tonight. The brother of two sisters missing in Aberdeen speaks to the BBC about their disappearance. He said Eliza and Henrietta Hoosty were cautious people. Inflation is down, but we'll hear from one savvy mum on how to get the best value from your weekly shop, also tonight. First Minister pledges once more to eradicate child poverty. We'll have reaction from campaigners. And as a group asks for action to improve the outcome for patients with less survivable cancers, we hear from a doctor who's also a lung cancer survivor. And we'll have all the sport, of course, with Lewis. What have you got for us tonight, Lewis?
Well, Laura, it's nearly that time of the year. The Six Nations is rapidly approaching. Gregor Townsend has named his squad for the tournament, and we've been chatting to his captain.
Hello, I'm Laura McKeever. Welcome to the News at 7. Now, it's just over a week since two sisters went missing in Aberdeen. Eliza and Henrietta Hoosty, both 32 and originally from Hungary, were last seen in Market Street at Victoria Bridge in the early hours of the 7th of January. Today, their brother Joseph told the BBC his family didn't know that they were due to move out of their rented property, and he added that the family had been flooded with messages of support. He spoke to the BBC's Nick Thorpe.
This has been an agonising week for Jozef Hoosty and his family. The long wait for news, daily phone calls with the police, and one incomprehensible detail after another. Why did his sisters set out at 2 in the morning? And why did they not tell their family, with whom they shared everything, that they decided to move house with immediate notice? The police also told reporters that the girls had notified their landlady that they wanted to move.
We don't understand this whole thing, that they wrote a message to their landlady, that they wanted to immediately end their tenancy agreement. We didn't have any information about that. Even when my mother spoke to them on the Saturday, they didn't mention anything about it, that they had any plans to move out. No. They decided after they finished school that they wanted to try to start a new life abroad.
The
family supported them in every way. I don't believe they would have mixed with the kind of people that would lead them to disappear.
In Aberdeen, the hunt for the missing sisters continues. Police divers are searching the freezing River Dee, close to the bank where they were last seen and further out towards the harbour. They've also traced the direct route they took from their home down to the river.
What I could say that all our inquiries to date don't provide any evidence that there's been criminality involved in the disappearance of the sisters. There's obviously significant concern when people are unaccounted for such a significant period of time, but extensive police inquiries to date have not identified any suspicious circumstances.
I would like to thank from the bottom of my heart the people of Aberdeen and the Hungarians living there for the enormous number of messages of support. I'm sorry. And the police there who are tirelessly searching to help find both my sisters. Thank you so much.
Joseph Hoosty there. Well, Nick Thorpe, who he was speaking to, can join us live now from Budapest. Nick, how did the family seem? How are they bearing up?
Well, obviously they're really shaken. I think Edith, the third sister who I didn't meet, she's dealing with the police on a daily basis, so she's bearing the brunt of the information, really, and obviously the mother, the girl's mother, they're just, hoping against hope that everything will be all right, but they're very shaken indeed.
Yeah, and how did Joseph seem to cope to you? It was really brave of him to be able to talk to you today.
It was, you know, he didn't want to talk. You know, we've been in touch with the family for some days now. They've given us a little information on the phone, but finally the family took the decision that he should speak to the media and first of all to us at the BBC about it. He put on a brave face, you know, he all the way through the interview, and then as you saw with that final question, you know, about all the outpouring of support for the family, that's when he was having the most difficulty holding back the tears. But I think he did very well, really. And obviously the family hope that by appealing to the public in this way, that perhaps someone will come forward.
And just quickly, Nick, has there been much reaction locally? Have people heard about the disappearance?
They have heard about it. The Hungarian media is full of it. People have been interviewed in the small village where the family originally come from, and hundreds of thousands of Hungarians live in the UK, including in Scotland. I think everyone feels touched by this, and I think everyone's just hoping for the best, that there's some explanation for the disappearance and that they'll reappear and that they're still alive and safe somewhere.
Indeed. Well, Nick, thank you very much indeed for joining us live tonight from Budapest. And thank you for being with us tonight on the News at 7. More to come in the programme, including a campaign group's reaction to a pledge by the SNP to eradicate child poverty.
And I'm catching up with Franz Ferdinand, talking all about their new music.
Well, there was some welcome news on inflation today. It fell slightly to 2.5%, but that is still above the Bank of England's target of 2%. Experts put that down to hotel prices falling and smaller rises in airfares. The rate at which food prices are going up, though, rose very slightly, just 0.5% more in December than it was in November. But the products seeing the highest rises included olive oil, cocoa, lamb and butter. Well, let's speak now to Lorna Cooper, a very savvy grocery shopper who has also written a book, haven't you, Lorna, How to Feed Your Family for £20 a week.
Yes.
You're like a hawk over these food prices.
Yes.
Just tell us what you've been seeing recently.
So I actually wrote my book in 2019. It came out in 2020. So if you look back, there's a shopping list in the book and it's got all the prices in it. And we repriced that today and it came up, it's 55% more than it was then. So that's a big rise. And I think when people hear saying that interest rates have only gone up a little bit, or even interest rates have fallen, that doesn't mean that prices have gone back down. It just means they're not rising as fast, at the same rate. So I'm seeing it as olive oil and butter is starting to come back up again, and things disappear from the shelves. You know, in 2014, we saw huge rises, and then in 2014 we saw the supermarket coming out and saying, oh, you know, we're doing this and we're doing that and we're doing this. And then gradually, as the sort of fanfare moves on to something else, those cheaper things, the basics range, they start to drop off, and the difference between a packet of pasta at the basics price of 42 pence and the next one up 75 pence, it's a big difference for a lot of people.
Is it easy to, first of all, to shop around and to compare different prices? You are a big fan, aren't you, of using different supermarkets
so what
to get those bargains?
You know, when people talk about shopping around, they think they have to go to like 6 different stores every week. The way I do it is it's more shopping smartly. So it's, if you're going to shopping every week, go to a different store every week, but buy, you know, so like if you know that stock cubes are cheaper here and butter's cheaper there, then when you're in this shop, you buy enough stock cubes to last the 4, 5, 6 weeks until you're back in that cycle.
So a bit of bulk buying,
a bit of bulk buying, but also having an idea of what things cost. And a lot of things, you know, we get price matches and things like that. A lot of things are the same, but there's a lot of differences in some things. You know, one thing like coconut milk, it can be 89 pence somewhere, it can be £1.60 somewhere else, and that's, you know, nearly double. So if you know, have a bit of a price index almost, you know what you're buying every week, you know roughly how much it costs, then when you see it at that sort of inflated price, you can think, oh no, I'll go elsewhere for that.
Good advice. Keep looking over it all for us, Lorna, and come back next month. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, tell us about your money-saving tips if you like. Hints would always be welcome. We love to hear your thoughts on this and more. Our email address is news7@bbc.co.uk. That's news7@bbc.co.uk. and we do have the thoughts of one viewer on trying to make ends meet. They've got in touch to say, I'm finding it very difficult to try and save money on our everyday living. I've cut back before and after retirement. I'm washing the dishes in cold water and putting on extra clothing and reading instead of watching TV. Thank you so much for that message. Let's get a roundup now of the stories making the BBC News app in Scotland. Plans to speed up the dualling of the A9 have been rejected by transport bosses over concerns that they wouldn't save the project time. The £3 billion upgrade is due to be completed in 2035. A man and a woman have been arrested after around 500 cannabis plants worth £300,000 were found by police at a flat in Edinburgh. A woman from Kelso in the Borders is offering a reward for information after her pet sheep were attacked twice in 2 weeks. Rachel Hall believes a dog may have caused the injuries. And Lorraine Kelly will host the opening ceremony of the Island Games in Orkney this summer. She will welcome athletes from 24 islands and island groups across the world to Kirkwall in July. And for more information on all of those stories, remember, scan the QR code on the screen now. It'll take you to the BBC Scotland News app, where there is much more for you, including hopes for 400 new jobs at the former Michelin tyre factory in Dundee. Right, let's return to that discussion now around the economy and prosperity. The First Minister has reasserted the SNP's pledge to end child poverty. It comes as he dismissed a suggestion from the UK government that SNP plans to offset the two-child benefit cap are being held up by Holyrood ministers. Meanwhile, Scottish Labour's Anna Sarwar says the Scottish Government are not going far enough.
A range of family benefits makes a difference straight away by putting money directly into people's pockets, helping people with the day-to-day essentials and the cost of living. That includes the Scottish Child Payment, which this coming year is expected to support around 330,000 children. Financial support for families which is unparalleled across the United Kingdom.
I think we have a situation now where the SNP believe that welfare or a single payment is the silver bullet that eradicates child poverty. I think it's an important tool, but it's one of a multi-spoke approach. You can't defeat child poverty by saying, yes, we're going to have a payment, for example, the Scottish Child Payment, which I support, but at the same time on our watch, we're going to have 10,000 children living in temporary accommodation.
Well, I've been speaking to Peter Kelly of the Poverty Alliance, and I asked him if he thought eradicating child poverty by 2030-31 was an achievable aim.
It is achievable. It will take an almighty effort to do that, though, and I think First Minister was correct in saying that this needs to be a national mission, so this is not simply about what Scottish Government does, this is also about what happens in local government, this is what happens in our communities, in the third sector, and in the private sector. So it is a national mission. This is a long-standing problem. This isn't something that's just happened. So it has deep roots, systemic roots, as the First Minister said, and it will require something of a mission-like approach to address it. I think it can be done, but we need to find the resources to enable it to make it happen. We have many of the solutions in our toolbox, if you like. But we need the resources to implement them.
How difficult is that mission, especially given this current atmosphere that we're in? The UK government budget essentially put a lot of the onus for things like higher pay, national insurance contributions as well, onto employers and business. And that has caused a bit of unrest, hasn't it, within that business community? So is that part of the challenge here, would you say? Because child poverty is linked to, is adult poverty basically, isn't it? But if you're trying to talk about giving people a better life by earning more, by having more, then that's a much wider conversation, isn't it?
It is a much wider conversation, and it is a conversation about what happens in the labour market. It is about what happens with jobs. It's what happens in our economy and the way our economy is structured, the way our tax system is structured. So it does require efforts in all these parts. We are often talking about social security and the need to improve the value of social security for individuals who are using it. that's an absolutely vital and important part of this. But of course, we want people to be in jobs, and that means addressing the barriers that many people face in accessing the labour market. So whether that's many women who are unable to find childcare, or families who are unable to find childcare, it's often women who pay the price for that. Or it's disabled people who are unable to find jobs that fit their needs. So we need to address some of those barriers that prevent people entering the labour market, but we then need to make sure that the jobs that are available are paying at the very least the real living wage, to ensure that people do move out of poverty when they move into a job.
Yeah, just briefly, a lot of political volume has gone into removing the 2-child benefit cap. Will that make a difference if that happens? It's meant to be happening by 2026.
Undoubtedly, we've referred to the 2-child limit as one of the most egregious parts of the welfare policies that came about in the 2010s. It's unjustifiable. The fact that we still have it is unacceptable. So it needs to go, and it will make a big difference in Scotland. It will lift 15,000 children out of poverty. So that's good enough reason to do it. But I think it would return some justice, some fairness to the way that our social security system works as well.
OK. Peter, thanks so much for joining us tonight on News at 7. Good to see you.
Thank you.
And still to come, we have the weather with Judith. And first, though, let's get some sport. Lewis is here.
Thanks, Laura. Hello there. Well, after last night's cracker at Dens Park, attention turns to Ibrox, where Rangers will face an Aberdeen team looking for their first win in 12 games. Both teams are unchanged from the weekend for this one, but James Tavernier and Leon Balogun are on the bench for the home side, and the Dons list new recruits Alfie Dorrington and Alexander Jensen among their subs. Rangers' 3-1 win against St Johnstone on Sunday followed 2 draws, but they are still unbeaten in 2025. Aberdeen have not won since early November, but did beat Philippe Clement's side 2-1 at Pittodrie in late October. You can listen to full radio commentary on BBC Radio Scotland Extra. Now, can you believe it is nearly time for the Six Nations already? Scotland head coach Gregor Townsend has named his squad for the tournament, and he admits that he's expecting a fascinating competition. There are 2 new call-ups for this one. Saracens' New Zealand-born fly-half Fergus Burke, who qualifies thanks to his Scottish grandfather. And Glasgow Warriors number 8 here, Jack Mann, one of 16 players from the Scotstoun side included in the squad. Scotland get underway with the visit of Italy on 1st of February and are looking to right the wrongs of last year when they lost in Rome.
I feel we're a better team now from the pain that we went through in the France game and the Italy game in particular. We were a better team against Ireland. It was different in the summer tour because there was younger players coming into the group, but I feel the team's moved on since Six Nations, and they showed that in the South Africa game in particular and parts of the Australia game. So losing and the pain of losing can make you better, but that's not what we're working towards. We're working towards getting as many wins as possible.
Well, the squad is once again captained by Sione Tuipulotu. The Warriors centre kept on as skipper after taking on the role in the autumn series. Our reporter Paul Barnes caught up with him, and he started by asking him about Scotland's chances.
Yeah, I like to think we're in the question, but you know, the important thing is for us to show that we've advanced in a tournament. You know, I thought we made massive strides during the Autumn Nations. We played well against, you know, 2 really good sides in South Africa and Australia, but this is a different type of test. It's a tournament where every game matters. We've got to show that we're a consistent enough team to ultimately win this tournament. I think it just starts from playing one game at a time.
If you do well with Warriors, you're rewarded with Scotland. If you do well with Scotland in a year like this, you may well be rewarded with the Lions. How aware of that are you? How big a year is this in your career?
Yeah, it's a massive year. You know, I don't want to sit up here and lie and stuff like that and say it's not in anyone's mind, because I feel like everyone sees straight through that. But you know, I've made my mind up that if I don't play well for Glasgow and I don't win for Glasgow, I won't be in anyone's mind for the Lions. And if I don't win or play well for Scotland, and we don't do well as a team, I won't be in anyone's mind for the Lions anyway.
Tell me about your passion for Scotland, because that's evident when we see you play. It means a lot to you. But for certain parts of your life, Australia might have been the dream.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I've never shied away from that at all, that I grew up in Australia wanting to be a Wallaby. That's my dream, that I played junior Wallabies all, you know, through my junior rugby, but my career didn't turn out how I thought it would when I was a kid, and Scotland gave me an opportunity to, you know, represent some of my parts of my heritage. And I suppose when I got here, I kind of made the decision that I wasn't going to do anything halfway, you know, like if I was going to play for Scotland, I was going to try and play for Scotland properly. I didn't want to finish up at 10 caps or 15 caps and, you know, say I made a little bit of money over here. I wanted to go all in and try and, you know, become a player that will be remembered in this country. I've almost been here 4 years now, and it's my home, and it's where my son's born, and I'm fully attached to the country, to my club here in Glasgow, and yeah, I suppose the one way that I can show that is not by getting up and tell everyone how, you know, passionate I am. It's really about showing them.
Fair to say the next few months or so, biggest of your career, biggest of your life?
Yeah, definitely. It's the biggest, you know, couple months coming up in my rugby career, and but I also feel like, you know, this is what I worked my whole life to get to right now. So there's no point getting here and, you know, not going for it. So this is what I've worked for, you know, my whole life. So I'm here now, and it's just about going out there and, you know, executing on what I know I can execute on.
Finally, some tennis news. And after dealing with a rowdy crowd at the Australian Open as he defeated Arthur Cazot, Scotland's Jacob Fernley is ready for the challenge of Alexander Zverev in the third round. The British number 3 continued his stunning rise after coming back from a set down to beat his French opponent in 4 sets. He's been rewarded with a tie against the German second seed, which is due to take place on Friday. And there were goals galore last night. Will we see the same tonight? You can follow all of the action from tonight's game on the live page on the BBC Sports Scotland website. There's plenty of other sport there too, including more reaction to today's Six Nations squad announcement. So yeah, can't wait for that to get started, Laura.
So good.
It's brilliant.
Can't wait. Thank you,
Cheers,
Lewis.
Laura.
Now, can you believe it is more than 20 years since Franz Ferdinand burst onto the music scene with their hit single, Take Me Out? Well, since then, it's had more than 1 billion streams. And the Scottish indie legends clearly haven't lost their touch, with their new album, The Human Fear, vying with the likes of Chapel Roan for the top spot in the album charts this week. Earlier, they told our entertainment reporter Indigo Stafford what inspired their new single, Hooked.
It's kind of about my boy, actually. I became a father quite recently. My son's nearly 16 months old. And for me, before my son was born, lots of people told me, you're going to love him so much. I was like, yeah, of course I'm going to love him. But I wasn't prepared for quite how overwhelming that sense of love was going to be, and also how unfamiliar that love was. In the song I say, I thought I knew what love was, and then I met you, because that's really what happened. Like I thought, yeah, I know what love is. I've been in love before, but I was really overwhelmed by it. And once I came to terms with that, I realized that those fears that I'd had all my life, you know, those big fears of like, what's the point of it all, and the fear of not existing anymore. Those fears were still there, but they just seemed kind of trivial or inconsequential when compared to this new form of love that I'd experienced.
So have the sleepless nights of being a dad prepared you for going back on tour?
Do you know, the crazy thing is, yeah, I did have a lot of sleep deprivation when he was first born. But the funny thing is, it actually reminded me of 2004 when our first album came out. We never slept for different reasons. So I was kind of there with that weird buzzing, kind of surreal sensation, thinking like, well, it's just like 2004 without the hangover.
I always ask people this question. Where is your favourite place to perform?
What's yours, Paul?
Well, I mean, Glasgow's obviously like really important to us because it's like the crowds here are amazing, and you get to go home afterwards.
Doesn't it, for having an amazing crowd?
But, yeah, I don't know. But internationally, like we talk to bands, like American bands who come and play here, or bands from all over the world who end up playing, like particularly the Barrowlands.
Especially the Barrowlands.
You know, everyone says, "Oh, that venue's amazing." Is it always like that? We're like, "Yep." Yeah.
Ironically, you guys are competing against Chapel Roan for #1 album when you just covered one of her songs.
You know I hate to say, but I told you so. Shoots another shot, try to stop the feeling.
Yeah, Yes, yeah. So we did a session, the sofa session for Jo Whiley recently, and she asked us to cover a contemporary song that we loved. So yeah, we did "Good Luck, Babe," and yeah, I don't know who I'm wishing good luck to now, whether it's Chapel or us. Yeah.
I mean, of course, you know, music's not a competition, but everyone should go and buy our record.
Yes, yeah. Either download it or there's a £5 CD you can get. Yeah, there'll be details online. But good luck, Chapel.
And you know, it's been over 20 years since your biggest track, Take Me Out, dropped, and it's hit an insane milestone. It's over 1 billion streams now. What is it about that song, you think, that got people so obsessed with this band?
I don't know. It's hard. Do you know, it's weird, like just the number 1 billion. I find it hard kind of conceptualizing it. It's really bizarre. I don't know. You know, I think ultimately it's quite simple. It's just a good tune. You know, like people like, it's got an energy. It gets people going.
I say you don't show, don't move, time slow. I say
Oh, it takes me back to when they were fresh young things, a bit like me and Judith. Let's check in with her and look at the weather. And it's a real mixture today, isn't it, from the weather watchers?
Yeah, it's been interesting because we've had some real warmth in the sunshine today. But if you take a look over here, Dumfries and Galloway was shrouded in quite low cloud today, and the temperatures here were quite repressed because of that. And that's been rolling in from the Irish Sea. But then come away from here, look at this gorgeous sunshine, almost like spring today. It's almost like we've turned the corner and seen the back of winter with that cold weather now, almost a distant memory. But as far as our weather is concerned, we are still in the throes of high pressure. 16 Celsius we saw today, exceptionally mild. Think back to just a few days ago when it was -19 across the Highlands. But we have high pressure to the south of us and around the western flank of that high. We're bringing some really mild air up from the Azores at the moment, and that high is deflecting any weather fronts, taking the energy out of them as well. So it keeps our weather pretty settled, although quite brisk winds for the northwest and the Northern Isles at times. So first thing tomorrow morning, we still have a bank of cloud. That's the cloud that fed in from the Irish Sea today across parts of Dumfries and Galloway, spreading into the borders. A bit more south, and the wind will push it further north into the southern uplands. But elsewhere, it's a largely dry start. Quite a lot of high cloud around, thicker cloud in the west, and it could be quite chilly across the north, and not as mild as it's been of late. And we still have some frontal cloud and strong winds over the Western Isles tomorrow and the Northern Isles too, first thing in the morning. But as we head through the day, I think that cloud, especially in the east, promises to thin and break. We'll see some brighter sunny spells, always maintaining a feed of cloud in the west, and temperatures 9-10 Celsius, but we could see, I reckon, maybe 13-14 along the Murray coast in that wind direction, with a bit more south in that wind. It will be breezy everywhere as well. So as we head into Friday, well, that high is still close enough to protect us. This weather front here will bring a wee bit of rain as we head through Thursday night, I should say, into Friday. Here it is first thing on Friday. Thicker clouds, some outbreaks of rain, no real weight to that rain, but it will be windy. We could see winds touching gale force over the Western Isles, the far north and the Northern Isles as well. Temperature-wise, we're still into double figures, still that mild air feeding right across us. And as we head in towards the weekend, very little changes. A lot of cloud to come on Saturday. Initially, still those strong or brisk southerly winds maintaining a mild feed right across the country. That cloud will thin and break across eastern Scotland, particularly up towards the northeast, the far north, and the Northern Isles not doing too badly either. And temperature-wise, it's still on the mild side. That's the forecast.
I can't get used to this sudden change of temperature. It's quite nice though. We'll take it, won't we?
I know, while it lasts.
Yes. Thanks, Judith.
You're welcome.
And thank you for being with us tonight on News at 7. You can join me again tomorrow night. We're going to be hearing from some of the stars of this year's Celtic Connections Festival. From all of us here, though, have a lovely evening. Bye for now, and we'll see you tomorrow.